Hello, welcome to this video. I will be building the Kyushu J7W1 Shinden, a kit from Hasegawa, made in 1981, and it is in 1:48 scale. It's a nice kit with not many parts, but I really like the design of the Shinden, so I had to get this kit. It comes with some decals you will see later on I had some trouble with, but they worked out fine in the end. The detail on the fuselage was not very deep, so you won't see much of it. And as with any airplane, I will be starting the assembly with the cockpit. It's pretty straightforward, not many parts. And in the end you won't see much of it. Only the seat and what are they called? The oxygen bomb? The oxygen bombs. Very weird that they have them right behind the pilot. In hindsight, I should have painted some parts before assembly. You see that correctly, I've put the foot pedals on the wrong way. I did correct that in the end, but I don't have that on video. Painting the instruments flat black. Giving the cockpit a wash with oil paints, fairly liberal. Later on I will be coming back with a dry brush and a cotton swab to remove the excess. Here you can see the inside of the fuselage, the inside of the side walls of the cockpit. They were very minimal in detail, but I didn't bother putting extra detail in it. In the end you won't see any of it, unfortunately. dry brushing with white, coming back with flat black to bring back the contrast. And then some red details. And with a toothpick I dropped some thick varnish to simulate glass. Then the fuselage can be put together. Oh, here you can see I turned the footrests of the pilot the other way. The assembly of the fuselage went together really good. No alignment issues. These wings had a little bit of a loose fit, so I pushed in some strips of thin plastic, let the glue cure and cut the rest off. It will not fill the whole gap, but later on I will fill that with Tamiya putty. The assembly of the wings onto the fuselage, I had to do some sanding because the fit wasn't great there, but after that the fit was okay. It still left some gaps here and there, like in the front of the wing where I'm pushing now. The transition isn't optimal, and on the top of the wings where they meet the fuselage there was also a slight gap. The cool thing about the Shinden is that the propeller is in the back of the airplane. Very unusual design, and I like unusual. primed the airplane with Tamiya surface primer, and now I'm sanding it back with various grits of sanding sponges. This is the roughest 180 grit. There I'm pointing at the place where I had to fill it with putty. This is a strip of packing tape. I put I think 3 strips of packing tape on top of each other so you get a thick layer, and then cut out a thin strip that I can use for panel scribing. This is the first time I used a riveting tool, and I gotta say I have a lot of respect other modelers who painstakingly put a lot of rivets on the airplanes. It results in a beautiful detail on the airplane, but the precision in the placing of the rivets is very important, and I'm not that patient. Yeah. But it was really fun to try this out for the first time. Also, you can put on a lot of rivets, but I didn't find good reference images. And in the end, because I don't have an airbrush, all this tiny detail got lost a little bit. So to all the fellow modelers who do have the patience to put in the time and effort for all these beautiful rivets, respect. Here I spray painted it with gloss aluminium from Tamiya, and now I'm going to get, oh, that was a bit too fast. Deep green XF26 from Tamiya. This was a bit of a tryout. Normally you do chipping the other way around. You paint the model in the base color you want, and you do the chipping with a sponge. In this case, you would use aluminium as a chipping paint. This time I wanted to try it the other way around, so I painted it in aluminium with a spray can, and now I'm chipping it with the deep green. It worked out okay, but with chipping you leave a bit of a thick layer of paint, a bit blobbish. That is the biggest reason why I lost a lot of the detail in the model. Not all of it, but a lot. Now I'm painting the parts of the plane where I couldn't get to with a sponge, like all the nooks and crannies where the paint wouldn't have chipped off. And here I'm taping off to paint the yellow markings on the wing. putting on some small strips of tape to paint the tips of the propeller in the same yellow color. I had a little bit of trouble with this yellow sticking to the underlayer. I had to use a couple of coats to get the opacity right. So my idea was to have the plane just lifting off with the landing gear halfway their retraction, and here I'm working on this plastic piece which I'm gluing on the inside, and now I have to drill a hole for the place where I will later on put a brass rod. So the brass rod has a bit more meat to be glued to. I'm gluing this plastic piece inside. This was my idea. I'm filling the holes. I'm not filling, I'm covering those holes where the original landing gear would go into. These holes were for the landing gear when the plane was on the ground, with some thin plastic sheets. And later on I will be painting them also green. And this is so I can glue on the landing gear in a different position. And as you can see here, I cut off the original pin of the landing gear, and later on I will be drilling a hole to put my own plastic pin into it, just at another angle. Onto the decals. One of my favorite parts of model building is putting on the decals, but I must say these decals from this kit gave me some trouble. Like these roundels, they were really thick. I had to soak them in water really long, and still they were very sticky to the paper. As you can see here, when I'm holding it in my tweezers, they just look thick. So I was worried all the detail beneath it would be lost. So I ended up coming back with Tamiya's Mark Fit Strong setting solution a couple of times. And as you can see here, they were really curling up at the edges. So I had to come back with the Tamiya setting fluid a few times. And when they got soft, I'm pressing them down with a cotton bud. I really had to do this 4 or 5 times before they really settled down correctly. But in the end they worked out really good. The color was great and the detail underneath was showing through really good. So in the end I was really pleased with these decals, these roundels. The other decals, these stripes I'm putting on, were very, very delicate. Super thin, fragile, just broke apart when looking at them. So I had to do a lot of fiddling with the toothpick to get the shape back a little bit. It was a bit of a disaster. And because I like putting on decals, I just put on some more decals for my own stash, mostly from machining Krieger kits. With decals I just can't help myself. And in this shot you can see how good the roundels ended up in the end. Really great. A last decal, a skull from a Machine Krieger suit. And then to blend the decals, and in this case the roundels, into the surrounding chippiness, I came back with some silver on a sponge and gave all the decals some chipping. Here you can see a black stripe I made on the top of the fuselage in front of the cockpit as an anti-glare paint layer. And also made some more chipping along panel lines. I really like putting on these tiny details with a brush. I think because I don't use an airbrush and I lose a lot of detail of the panel lines and the rivets, this way I can accentuate the panels again a bit more. So this is my way to get some detail back into the plane. Also, a way to get some detail back into the panel lines is using oil wash. In this case, my own mix of off-white, mostly white, and some brown oil paints. I smear that all over the airplane. Then come back with slightly dampened cotton swab and a tissue paper. Come back a few times over it to wipe away the excess. And because the underside is racing white, I'm using a dark brown wash, also my own blend. Cover the underside and wiping it away again. This way you can make the details underneath pop a little bit more and make the plane look a little bit more used and dirty. I already have glued in the plastic piece we'll be using for the metal rod to stick in, so I can close up the fuselage with the propeller. Here you can see the small plastic rods I glued on the landing gear to get a half retracted angle. This one wasn't really the same angle, so I put a toothpick underneath. And the third wheel, the nose gear assembly. This wheel came really close to the antenna wire, so I had to pay extra attention to the location of these rods and the position of the wheel. Taking away the tape of the canopy. This was the moment, not of joy, but that I found out I forgotten to paint the gray part in the front where the instrument panel is. You can see it here. Totally forgot to paint that black. So I had to peel off the canopy again, the front part, and paint it flat black. And the glass piece, I just gave it some white. And then I could glue back the front of the canopy. The glass is still a little bit dirty here, but as you can see, you can't see a lot of it. Unfortunately, just a seat and some struts. Now I can fix the airplane to the brass rod. I've bended it in a certain shape, put some CA glue in there, so the airplane looks like it just took off halfway in the process of retracting its landing gear. And here a view from beneath. This is what it looks like, and I gave this 24 hours to dry. And here's the finished result. I did some experiments in this build, like the reverse chipping, the green paint on the aluminum base color, the positioning of the landing gear, and trying to make the airplane fly in the air, look like it is flying. So I enjoy that, doing something different in every build, learning, trying out, failing. But in the end, I'm really glad I did this build, this airplane, because I really love the design. I hope you liked the video. If you did, you can like and maybe subscribe. See you in the next video. Bye. Doei.